best place to go to is the Global Times. And what the Global Times is, it's a English language organ of the Chinese Communist Party, and its level of polemics borders on the comical. But one shouldn't take their laughable execution to detract from the overall strategic way of trying to appeal to a certain kind of person outside of China's borders. And I think it speaks to the kind of person that Lenin called the useful idiots. The people that believe, for lack of a better word, in the promise of a red China and what it can do. And English language speakers that read the Global Times also probably get their news from Russia Today. There was a piece on there today called Threat or Chance, and what it basically did was it tried to understand what are the kind of underlying factors behind the Indo-Japanese relationship. And its major thesis was that India was exploiting territorial rows between Japan and China to get ahead through technology transfers and so on and so forth. That the stuff, the firmament of Indo-Japanese relations are nothing more than material needs from India, that India is almost exploiting Japan. This is patently not true because of two factors. One, I think there's a large historical relationship between those countries. Even past this whole ancient history, what have you, but more recent activities, starting in the 1800s, 1900s, because Japan was the first Asian country to industrialize. I think that has endeared it to a lot of Indian people. To this day, I think 77 or some obscene percentage of Indians have favorable views of Japan. And that's probably more than Japanese people are favorable of Japan. But the second thing there is that since 1945, there's a very powerful emotional bond between those countries, or at least one that Indians have for Japan. And this is the case where right after World War II, India presents some elephants to the Tokyo Zoo as its first sign of peace building. And it was, I think, very appreciated by Japanese politicians at the time. So you have these kinds of factors that I would say culturally endear. So I think it's much more fundamental than that. And the whole point of this exploitation thesis is wrong because one of the principal architects, I think, of Indo-Japanese relations to go to the next level is rapidly becoming one of my favorite politicians, who is Shinzo Abe. And he actually spoke on the floor of the Indian Parliament, the Lok Sabha, and he spoke in very kind of concrete terms on how to build together almost an alliance of these arc of prosperity, whatever you want to call these, of democracies that surround China. And I think the final fundamental part of all of this is there is a very real need for India to ally itself with Japan and similar countries. Not because they're trying to get ahead through technology transfer, but rather because there are repeated border encroachments by the People's Republic of China. I believe fundamentally the People's Republic of China is antagonistic towards every single country on its border, and there's a reason why. Suffice it to say, it's too large to get into, but one needs to defend themselves against such bullying. Otherwise, they would have to, acknowledge the Middle Kingdom supremacy. And this, I think, is very dangerous for democracy, is very dangerous for national sovereignty, because what it ends up doing is it creates a superior-inferior relations. And if that is the only kind of vision of a world alliance system that China has, then that is very problematic. And I hope in the future that the Chinese governments can see that their current trajectory is alienating everyone on its borders.